Welcome to the Deep Dive. Today we're taking a really close look at Ezra chapter 7.
Yeah, this chapter is fascinating. It brings Ezra himself onto the scene.
Right, Ezra. And it covers his big journey from Babylon back to Jerusalem.
And crucially, this, almost unbelievable royal decree from King Artaxerxes of Persia that made it all happen, according to the text.
Exactly. So the context here is Artaxerxes' reign. Some Israelites had already gone back from exile, but this feels different.
It does. That high-level backing really sets it apart.
So that's our mission for this deep dive.
Yeah.
Understand Ezra as the text shows him. Figure out what drove this journey.
And just how extraordinary this support from the top of the Persian Empire actually was, based on what Ezra 7 tells us.
Okay, let's start with Ezra the man. What does the text tell us about him?
Well, straight away, it gives us his pedigree, a really detailed lineage tracing him all the way back generation by generation.
To Aaron, the chief priest.
Exactly. So right off the bat, he's positioned within that priestly leadership line, established authority.
But it's more than just lineage, isn't it? The text calls him a teacher well-versed in the law of Moses.
Which the Lord, the God of Israel, had given. Yeah. So he's not just from the right family. He's an expert. He knows the law inside out.
And it seems like it was deeply personal for him, too. It says he had devoted himself to the study and observance of the law of the Lord.
And to teaching its decrees and laws in Israel. So it wasn't just academic knowledge. He lived it. He studied it. He taught it. Real dedication.
Okay, so we have his lineage, his expertise, his personal devotion, and then there's this other key phrase that pops up again and again.
Ah, yes. The hand of the Lord his God was on him.
It's right there at the start when describing him, and it keeps coming back. It's presented as the sort of underlying reason for everything.
Absolutely. It frames the whole narrative. The idea is that God's favor, God's power, was enabling Ezra and this whole mission.
Brings us to the mission itself, the journey.
Right. And the text is surprisingly specific about the timing. They left Babylon on the first day of the first month and arrived in Jerusalem on the first day of the fifth month.
Wait, first to the fifth month? That's 4 full months of travel.
4 months, yeah. Just think about that in the ancient world. Crossing that distance with a group of people, supplies.
That's a massive undertaking, not just hopping on a plane.
Not at all. A major logistical challenge. And guess why the text says they made it successfully?
Let me guess. The hand of the Lord.
You got it. For the gracious hands of his God was on him. It constantly circles back to divine favor as the primary reason for success.
And who was making this 4-month trek with him? Was it just Ezra?
No, the text mentions others went too. Specifically, in the 7th year of King Artaxerxes, it lists priests, Levites, singers, gatekeepers, temple servants.
So people connected to the temple and religious life.
Exactly. It seems like a coordinated return focused on rebuilding that aspect of the community. Not just individuals going home, but a group with a purpose.
Okay, so the journey itself is significant, divinely aided according to the text. But the real showstopper here is this decree from Artaxerxes.
Oh, absolutely. This is where things get, pretty extraordinary. The text describes it as a formal letter from the king.
And it doesn't just say King Artaxerxes. It calls him King of Kings.
Right. Emphasizing the sheer scale of his empire. He's the top dog.
And who is this letter addressed to?
Directly to Ezra the priest, a teacher of the law of the God of heaven. The king acknowledges Ezra's role and even names Ezra's God.
That title, God of Heaven, is interesting too, a term sometimes used in Persian contexts.
It is. So let's unpack what this letter actually says. The provisions are quite something.
Okay, let's break it down. First, just the basic permission, right?
Yes, but even that is broad. It says anyone in the kingdom, Israelites, priests, Levites, who wants to go with Ezra to Jerusalem can go. Voluntary migration, but officially sanctioned.
Okay, permission granted. But it sounds like it went way beyond just saying, okay, you can go.
Miles beyond. Ezra is officially sent by the king and his top 7 advisors, and listen to this mission, to inquire about Judah and Jerusalem with regard to the law of your God.
Wow. So the king is commissioning him to, investigate how well Jewish law is being followed.
Essentially, yes. It's a royal mandate to assess the state of religious observance according to their law. That's a massive endorsement.
A foreign king tasking someone to check up on religious law.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, what else? There was funding involved, wasn't there? Serious funding.
Oh, absolutely. Serious funding. They're told to take silver and gold that the king and his advisors are freely giving.
Freely giving. Oh.
And on top of that, they're authorized to collect more silver and gold from the entire province of Babylon as free will offerings.
So royal treasury donations plus permission to fundraise locally.
Exactly. And the king even gets specific about how to use some of it.
Oh, so.
Buy bulls, rams, male lambs, grain offerings, drink offerings, the specific things needed for sacrifices on the temple altar in Jerusalem. He's directly funding their core worship activities.
Okay, that's specific. What about any leftover money?
Here's another amazing bit. The rest of the silver and gold, Ezra and his associates can use it whatever seems best to you in accordance with the will of your God.
So the king provides the funds, but lets them decide how to use the surplus based on their own religious judgment.
Precisely. Huge trust and delegation there. Plus, they're to deliver specific temple articles that were entrusted to them.
Right.
But then there's this clause, and anything else needed for the temple of your God, you may provide from the royal treasury.
Hold on. Anything else needed? That sounds like a blank check for the temple.
It does, doesn't it? An open-ended commitment, seemingly, from the royal funds for the temple's needs. It's pretty stunning.
And did the king make sure his own officials would cooperate?
Oh, yes. Direct orders were sent to the treasurers of the whole Trans-Euphrates region, that's the area, including Judah,
And what were they ordered to do?
to provide with diligence whatever Ezra may ask of you. And he set some seriously high upper limits for their contributions.
Limits like what?
Up to 100 talents of silver, which is a massive amount, like maybe 7,500 pounds of silver.
Right.
0.100 sewer cores of wheat, 100 baths of wine, 100 baths of olive oil. These are huge quantities of essential goods and precious metal.
This is far beyond just a token gesture.
Far beyond. And then there's that curious detail and salt without limit.
It's a salt without limit. Why salt and why unlimited?
Well, salt was essential for sacrifices, for preservation, maybe other uses too. Providing it without limit just underscores the king's command. Give Ezra what he needs for this temple work. Don't skimp.
Okay, this level of support, permission, finance, materials, logistics, open-ended funding, it's staggering.
Mm.
What reason does the king give? Does the text tell us why Artaxerxes is doing all this?
It does, and this might be the most fascinating part. The king says, according to the text, whatever the God of heaven has prescribed, let it be done with diligence for the temple. And then the reason. Why should there be wrath against the realm of the king and of his sons?
So he's doing it to avoid angering the God of Israel, to protect his own kingdom.
That's exactly how the text presents his motivation. It's not just generosity or political strategy, although those might be factors. The stated reason is a concern about divine retribution from this specific God.
That paints a picture of the God of Israel having perceived power even over the greatest empire on earth at the time.
From the perspective of this text, absolutely. It suggests the king believed that properly supporting this god's worship was essential for Persia's own well-being.
Incredible. Does the decree grant Ezra any other kind of authority?
Yes, it moves into the legal realm.
Yeah.
The king empowers Ezra to appoint magistrates and judges
To do what?
to administer justice to all the people of Trans-Euphrates, all who know the laws of your God.
So Ezra gets to set up a court system based on Jewish law for Jews in that Persian province and appoint the judges.
Yes. And it adds that Ezra should teach any who do not know them. So he's not just appointing judges, he's the designated teacher and interpreter of the law they're meant to uphold.
So he has religious and legal authority backed up by the king.
A remarkable blend. And the decree spells out the consequences for disobedience.
What kind of consequences?
It says, whoever does not obey the law of your God and the law of the king, notice the dual authority there, must surely be punished.
By
Death, banishment, confiscation of property, or imprisonment. Real teeth enforced by the state for breaking either God's law, as interpreted by Ezra, or the king's law.
That really establishes a unique legal standing for the community and their law within the Persian system at that moment.
It absolutely does.
So Ezra receives this unbelievable decree. How does he react personally? What does the text say?
His immediate reaction isn't self-congratulation, it's praise. He praises the Lord, the God of our fathers.
He gives the credit to God.
Completely. He says God is the one who has put it into the king's heart to bring honor to the house of the Lord in Jerusalem in this way. He sees the king's motivation as divinely inspired.
Does he acknowledge God's help for himself too?
Yes, he adds that God has extended his good favor to me before the king and his advisors and all the king's powerful officials. He sees God's hand working through the entire political process.
So he fully attributes it to divine intervention. And what does this realization, this favor, make him do?
It gives him courage. He says, "Because the hand of the Lord my God was on me, I took courage and gathered leading men from Israel to go up with me."
That divine backing empowers him to step up, take on this huge task, and actually lead people back.
Exactly. The sense of divine purpose and support is presented as the catalyst for his action. The whole narrative hinges on it.
Okay, let's try and pull this together for you, the listener. What are the big takeaways from Ezra 7?
Well, we see Ezra deeply prepared through study and devotion to the law. We see this journey framed as divinely guided.
And then this absolutely stunning level of royal support from Persia money, materials, legal power, tax breaks.
Yeah, the surprising parts are really central. A foreign king actively funding another god's worship, enforcing religious law, exempting personnel from taxes. It's active sponsorship, not just passive tolerance.
And that stated reason from Artaxerxes wanting to avoid the wrath of the God of heaven against his own kingdom. That's a key element in how the text portrays these events.
It suggests, within the world of this text, a perception that the God of Israel's power was real and had consequences even for empires.
So this decree really lays down a unique foundation for the community getting reestablished in Jerusalem, right? Supported and protected by the imperial power.
A very strong foundation, according to this account. It grants them significant autonomy and resources for their religious and community life.
Which leads us to a final thought, something for you to consider, based purely on what we've read here in Ezra 7.
Given that specific reason King Artaxerxes stated for his support, why should there be wrath against the realm of the king and of his sons? What does this text suggest about how the God of Israel's influence was perceived even by powerful foreign rulers who didn't primarily worship him? How far did that perceived power reach, according to this narrative?